Hi, and welcome to episode 20 of the Hypnotize Me podcast. I'm so excited that I made it to episode 20. I hope I'm this excited at episode 200 too. So this is a podcast about hypnosis, transformation, and healing. And today is a special episode. First, I'm going to tell you a true story. Then we're going to talk about whether hypnosis for weight loss is effective. Third, we're going to talk about alternatives to it and why I stopped doing hypnosis for weight loss. Actually, I think by the end, you'll know why, right? Like this whole episode is about why I stopped doing hypnosis for weight loss. Now, you will notice that the keywords are on my website because if you do hypnotherapy and you want people to find you, pretty much that's what they're searching for. Weight loss, right? Will hypnosis help me? But when you click on those keywords, it's a very different story. And I know that's not going to resonate with 90% of people, but I'm really looking to resonate with about 10% of people, right? Like 10% maybe will get this message like I did. So this has been quite a journey for me, actually. I am a weight cycler. And as I talk about this, like all these vulnerabilities are coming up. I worry that people are going to think this is a snowflake story. That's what personal trainers often call people who come in and give their like weight loss sob stories, snowflakes. I worry that people are going to be like, well, she's on the heavier side, so that's why she's doing this. Okay, I am not a skinny mini. I know you can't see me. I'm not really obese. People don't look at me and think, oh my God. But I'm also not like your skinny little 20-year-old, like perhaps I once was, not perhaps, like I once was. I'm sharing that experience because anytime you talk about weight loss, all these vulnerabilities come up in people because we live in a weight-obsessed culture. We really do. It's harder in different areas of the country too. So I will say that, like I live in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. It is weight obsessed, appearance obsessed here. You cannot go a full day pretty much without seeing like a pair of fake boobs. Okay, pretty much. I know LA is like that. I have a friend from Chicago and she kept saying to me, Elizabeth, and she just looks like a normal person. She's not heavy. She's not thin. She's just normal. That's it. She's probably actually a little on the thin side. But anyway, pretty girl. And she said, Elizabeth, I'm like a supermodel in Chicago. She's like, you would move to Chicago and have men like lining up to date you. And I was like, you're crazy. Like that's impossible. Believe me. And then I took a trip to Chicago because I had always wanted to visit. And I texted her. I was like, oh my God, you're right. Like I feel normal here. I feel like a normal mom. My weight would not be an issue in this city. I haven't seen a pair of fake boobs the entire time I've been here. Some people wear makeup, some people don't. In fact, I've seen women like not wearing bras at all and nobody looks twice at them. I can't even walk around the block in Fort Lauderdale without wearing a bra or somebody like gives you a look. Like, what's she doing without a bra on? So it's so different around the country. And I do want to acknowledge that. But we still have this overall obsession with weight. There's entire industries based on it, right? Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Slim Fast. I actually got very angry when Oprah came out. And if you're an Oprah fan, you can turn it off now. But when Oprah came out endorsing Weight Watchers, because it was like, you are the richest woman in the world. You have personal chefs and personal trainers. And if you cannot keep weight off, Weight Watchers is not going to do it for you. Why are you doing this? Like, you don't need the money, obviously. Like, this isn't going to happen. We're just going to see you do another program in 2 years. Like, why not be happy with your body? This is what you preach every day on your shows for 20 years. Like, be happy with yourself, be spiritual. And now you're doing this again. It's like, no. And what happened to your medical advisors too, right? Her medical advisors are all reading diet books, I think. A lot of our doctors are reading diet books. They're not reading the actual research around weight loss and what makes people healthy and fit. So I came to this journey because I am a weight cycler. I would lose weight, gain it back. It was never this intention of like, oh, I can gain the weight back because I can just lose it again. So I never really considered myself a yo-yo dieter. It was more like, geez, it's creeping up. What do I do? I'm feeling frustrated. I don't know what to do. So it's creeping up again. And when I would get to a certain point, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to try another diet, quote unquote, healthy diet, quote unquote. And I'm not going to list the ones I did that I considered healthy, but it wasn't like Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or any of those systems. I felt like I was looking at like well-researched diets that are really good for you and blah, blah, blah. Okay. I was thinking about doing an episode on hypnosis for weight loss, and I had put on my website that if you're just coming in to lose like 10 or 20 pounds for aesthetics, like I won't do hypnosis for you. If you're coming in for health reasons, I will. And I had written a woman about mindful eating, like could you be on my show, the podcast, and talk about mindful eating because it's such an important component here, I think, of weight loss. And I sent her the link to that page, and she wrote back and she said, health, quote unquote, reasons are not legitimate. Here's some research for you to look at, and here's a TED Talk. And she sent me Sandra Aamodt's TED Talk. I had seen the TED Talk the year before, and it had impacted me, but I had never ordered her book. She's a neuroscientist, and again, I'll have a link to the TED Talk in my show notes, and I'll probably put the video on the page too if you go to the website so you can access it easily. I had never ordered her book, but she really encouraged me to. And she encouraged me to look at these articles for Health at Every Size, it's called, and mindful eating. And I did. Then she shared her story about how she came to this place in her life herself. And it impacted me so much that I wrote her back and I shared my story. And I said, this is what's happened in my life. And I have hypothyroid, which is autoimmune, and another autoimmune. And then I went into the pre-diabetic range and it really freaked me out. So I didn't do a diet. I went to a functional medicine doctor because that's all the rage now, a functional medicine. And she put me on a very rigid diet. She did a hair test, which you can do and see like what minerals are you missing and what are you okay on and all this stuff. And then did a very custom specific diet just for me. So I didn't consider this a diet, quote unquote, right? I wasn't going to Weight Watchers. I wasn't just picking a book up off the shelf. This was prescribed by a doctor who has both a Western and an Eastern philosophy and trying to bring those together for good nutrition. And I went on that diet for like 4 to 6 months and I got very, very depressed. Very depressed. I couldn't eat anything, really. It was dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free except for quinoa. So forget oatmeal or corn, any of those. Nope, can't have any of that. I had already been white flour and white sugar free for about a year before that due to inflammation in my body. And I had decided to do that. I had read books about autoimmune disorders. So that part wasn't very hard for me. And once you cut that out, believe me, like processed foods are gone from your diet, basically. Okay. Once you decide to cut out white flour and white sugar. But I had done it because I was waking up in the night with my elbows aching so painfully that it would wake me up in the night. So I was like, okay, I've got to cut out the white flour and sugar. I had heard this from like 3 different people. And by the 3rd time I hear something, I'm like, okay, I got to do it. So I was eating practically nothing. I pretty much could not go out to eat. I couldn't bake with my children, forget it. I would often make them a separate meal than the one I'm eating because one, I didn't feel like they should have to be on that diet with me. No, I wasn't willing to deprive them when they're like used to their regular diet, which is pretty healthy in general. So it's like if they want some rice, I was going to make them some rice and I would eat quinoa. Most of the times they'd eat quinoa with me. But sometimes they really wanted rice. And it's like, of course you do, right? Like who wants to live on quinoa? Believe me. So I did this hoping to bring down the pre-diabetic number, A1C, and to lose some weight because I knew that would help prevent diabetes. And nothing changed. Not a single thing changed. No weight loss. 0. Not even a pound. I was exercising at the time too. Okay, so I was exercising. I had increased my exercise from about like 20 to 30 minutes a day up to about 45 minutes to an hour, probably 5 days a week or so. So this was not that I didn't exercise, because I know some of you are thinking that, listening, going, yeah, you weren't exercising. Nope, that's not the case. And not a pound came off. So I shared this with her, and she said, you really need to read this book. You need to read Sandra Aamodt's book. You need to start looking at the research on weight loss and how our body defends a certain weight. I'm going to go into like a mini summary of Sandra Aamott's book, because I did order it and it is excellent. It is called Why Diets Make Us Fat. Okay, why diets make us fat. Yeah, she's a neuroscientist, highly respected. This is not just math and counting calories. Okay, it is much more complex. Your body has this defended range that it wants to keep at, that it wants to maintain against all odds. Okay, and this seems to creep upwards in people who repeatedly diet. So inflammation is definitely related. And then your brain thinks diets are starvation. And starvation often leads to cycles of binge eating as your brain tries to compensate. And then repeated dieting leads to changes in the brain that makes overeating more likely and easier. Scary stuff. Okay, scary stuff. I know you're thinking right now, like, what am I supposed to do then? Just be fat? Because that's often what I would think. Okay. And we're going to get to that, what you can do. Okay. But I want to explain this first. So there's also all these other influences. There's prenatal influences. So yes, we get to blame our mothers once again. Okay. So stuff your mom did during pregnancy that you don't control, that influences your weight as an adult. Okay. So this may not show up in childhood or adolescence, although it is starting to these days. This influences you more when you reach adulthood, like after adolescence. Then there's influences that stretch back like generations. This is like epigenetic stuff, where it's like what was going on in your grandmother's life when she was pregnant with your mom influences your weight today. Okay, this is freaky stuff, and I don't pretend to understand it all. It's sort of like, I got to wrap my brain around it some and then be like, gulp, big gulp, right? So that influences your weight. What your grandmother did and what your mother did and what you did during pregnancy, not even what you did, what was going on in your life at that time influences your children's weight and your grandchildren's weight. So if you had a highly stressful pregnancy, this is going to influence your child's rate of obesity when they're an adult. Now, I'm a PMD specialist, a prenatal and postpartum anxiety and depression specialist. And this is important, okay, for all kinds of reasons to try to reduce your anxiety and depression during pregnancy. Some anxiety is completely normal, right? Everybody worries, I think, when they're pregnant. But when it starts to go off the scale, when it starts to creep upwards, it's not just you that we're treating. We're treating your baby. We're treating your grandchildren, really, right? We're treating generations. So I just want to put that in as an aside. But my point there is like all these factors influence you. And somehow, I know in the US, this is never talked about. It is always like, you're the reason you're fat. You're the reason, like, you're just lazy, or you can't count calories, or you can't, do this or that. You don't have the willpower. And I am saying that is not accurate. That is not correct. Okay, I know this is a counter narrative to the great big narrative that's going on right now. But I also know it's going to resonate with some people, and some of you are turning it off. That's okay with me. I'm speaking to the people who you're like, oh my God, finally my life makes sense. Because that's what happened to me after I read this book. Like, finally my life makes sense in terms of weight loss and weight gain and all of that that's been happening to me. Okay, so there's that factor. Severe childhood stress leads to heavier adults, even if they're teensy children. So frequent physical abuse raises your chances of being obese as an adult by 71%. 71%. Sexual abuse, 40%. Frequent fear, 34%. This is nothing you're controlling, right? Like, you're born to your parents. You didn't control whether they abused you or not, or whether somebody else did. This has nothing to do with your willpower as an adult and counting calories. Nothing. Sleep problems and sleep loss increases your chances of diabetes independent of weight. Less than 5 hours per night, you have like a 46% increase in risk. That's crazy, right? Independent of weight. That's why we're all sort of obsessed with sleep. Okay, so that's some of the just giving you the one-liners here around the influences on weight. And in the book, she goes into it in a lot more detail, obviously. So what's the solution? I know you're asking that. Okay, let's say we can't change our weight because it's even if you lose the 20 pounds, you're going to gain it back, right? Over time. The vast majority of people are going to gain it back over time until their body gets back to that defended weight. Okay, the weight loss studies, and even when I did a review of hypnosis for weight loss, is it effective? The weight loss studies only follow people about 2 years. That's about it. That's about the longest they run. But when they follow people longer, then they see oh no, everybody gains weight back to their defended range pretty much. Okay, now bariatric surgery actually resets the body's defended weight range, and they don't even quite understand why. After pregnancy, you have this window to lose weight that your body can do that and you can get back to a set weight range. If you pass that window, and again, it's individual for everybody, I can't even tell you what that window is. But if you pass it, then your higher weight is what your body wants to defend. That is what it will keep going back to. And then often if you're doing the weight cycling, you'll gain weight over that. So you'll gain another 5 pounds. So let's say you start at 150 and you lose 10 pounds and you're down to 140 and you're like, woohoo, right? And then it starts to creep back up and you're like, what the F? And then you actually end up a little bit higher. You end up at 155 or 160. And then you're like, what the F? And so then you try to lose 20 pounds, right? And then you do the same thing back and forth. So I'm saying clearly, stop dieting. It doesn't work. Stop dieting. Stop counting your calories. Cut out trigger foods if you want to cut out trigger foods. Okay. We could all use less white flour and sugar, right? Yeah, we all know that that's not good stuff for us, but that doesn't mean you can't eat it occasionally, right? But if you have a trigger food, I don't know, Oreos or something where you're going to get home and you're going to eat half the box, don't buy that stuff. It's not healthy for you anyway. Actually, one of the solutions is eating healthier, but while you're eating healthier, be happy at your weight. Try your best to accept yourself at this weight. And if nothing else, think, okay, I don't want to get heavier. Anne Lamott is a famous writer, and there's this one passage in one of her books or something that says, she tells her therapist, I've decided to go on a diet. And the therapist looks at her and says, oh, honey, I didn't realize you're planning on gaining weight, right? That is what I'm telling you. If you have the thought, I'm going to diet, I've got to get this weight off, I got to diet, think to yourself, I don't want to get heavier. That's the solution there, cognitively. Okay, let's look at other solutions though. Fitness, exercise. So 12 times per month is the recommendation that Sandra Aamodt gives based on research, which is about 3 or 4 times per week, predicts health more than any other factor, regardless of weight. So if someone is exercising 3 to 4 times a week, and they're at a heavier weight and a lighter weight, their health predictions are pretty much the same. Actually, the heavier person has higher health incomes, meaning if they get sick, they have a little weight on them and they actually do better than the skinny person. Okay, so you need to know that, right? Because it's funny, before I even read her book and I had gone through this whole thing with the functional medicine doctor and I finally gave up and I was like, you know what? So I'll have a little weight on me if I get sick, right? I'll do better in the hospital. This is before I read her book. And then I was like, oh my God, this is accurate. Actually, heavier people, when they get cancer, when they get diseases, all this stuff, they actually do better than skinnier people in terms of longevity, in terms of surviving. This whole thing about you got to be skinny for health is completely false. It is completely false. You can have health at every size. You can have health at any size. Exercise and fitness is way more important than any weight, any number. So we've got that, okay? It helps prevent diabetes too. So it has the same effect as diet plus exercise. So if they study people who do just exercise and don't diet, and then diet and exercise in terms of preventing diabetes, it's the same effect. There's no reason to diet. Exercise is what does it. Good food choices. So 5 servings of fruit and vegetables per day. That's really not a lot. Fruit and vegetables, 5 servings. So go look that up because I'm not looking that up for you. Okay. I don't know what fruit and veggies you like to eat, right? So light to moderate drinking. Right now, obviously, this isn't going to work for alcoholics. But if you're not alcoholic, then less than 1 drink per day for women and about 2 for men is what's predictive of health. Now, she doesn't talk about coffee in her book too, but I read a whole nother study around coffee. Coffee is actually really good for you. People who drink coffee live longer. I started drinking coffee after reading that study. I didn't even drink coffee before because it sort of made my heart race and do all the bad stuff that sometimes coffee does. But it's like, oh, I'm just going to develop a tolerance, work my way up because it's so healthy for you. Like really? Okay. Stress reduction. Stress is a major, major factor in your like actual health. So the more stress reduction you can do, the better. And that means like meditating and walking and finding healthy ways to blow off stress, taking a yoga class and getting out of stressful situations. Okay, getting out of abusive marriages. Abusive marriages are so stressful. From a health perspective, inside, what's going on in your body, they're not healthy for you. And not smoking. That's what she talks about in her books, right? If you're not smoking, yeah, you're going to live longer. All right, great. Now, I know all your smokers are thinking, well, then how do I do stress reduction? I can't smoke. There are other ways to do stress reduction. Right? Go back and listen to the podcast around the research on hypnosis and smoking, and then listen to the podcast I did that an interviewed hypnotherapist who stopped smoking with hypnosis. Do whatever you need to do to stop smoking, but really that's a big factor. Okay, we are coming to the end of the time here. Intuitive mindful eating is a really, really important part of this. Okay, body acceptance is one, and intuitive mindful eating, because you're saying like, what do I do if I can't count calories, if I can't like measure and weigh and do all this stuff, right? When you start to tune into your body, you'll notice your body adjust, your feelings adjust, okay? You start to notice that like, oh, I'm really not hungry now, or I do need food. Yes, I'm hungry. I'm starting to get irritable, and let me see what I can do here. I think a hypnosis for that too is coming up in the future. Like let's do a mindful eating hypnosis. I have one on my website that you can download if you want to jumpstart on that for healthy eating and also loving to exercise. That's a great one. Very popular. Because the more you can like exercising, the more you're going to do it, right? But anyway, intuitive mindful eating is like tuning into the body, seeing what it needs, and then listening. That body is going to adjust to what it needs. So if you have like this really big dinner one night, you're going to notice that you're less hungry the next morning once you start tuning into that. You're going to notice like, oh, I don't really feel like my afternoon snack. Yeah, I'm good for dinner. You know, that's really important. And it's easier to work out when you're not starving, when you're well fueled. Like it feels completely different. Now, I know this is playing the long game here. Okay. When you start exercising, when you start doing mindful eating and you improve your diet, you may or may not lose weight. Often people do because their body just sort of adjusts a little bit down because they're like, oh, they're not stressed so much. But I'm saying it doesn't matter. What matters is that that's going to make you healthier at any size. Any size. And then the final point I want to make is what matters for me, and Sandra Aamodt talks about this too, is putting my energy and attention on something that does matter. I don't want to devote energy to obsessing about food and weight. That's the place I got to after that final diet. That's what I call it, the final diet. I don't want to be depressed and obsessed about food all day, about what I can and can't have. I don't. I'm going to eat intuitively. I know some things I don't want to eat because they cause inflammation in my body. But with those eliminated, it's like, okay, I'm going to listen to what my body needs and wants. in terms of portion, in terms of what it really needs for nutrition, so that my attention can be present for healing, for creating meaning, for helping other people, for being present with my children. Like, I just have come to this place in my life where I refuse to engage in the huge dance and obsession with weight. I'm not willing to do that anymore. You want to come in and talk about mindful eating and better choices and how to exercise, and yeah, I'll do that. I'm happy to help you with that. But my goal there is not for you to lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds. It really isn't. My goal there is for you to be happier in your life, for you to be healthier from the inside, and that can happen at any size. So now you know why I don't do hypnosis for weight loss. Now, I do it for preparing for bariatric surgery and for after bariatric surgery, because if someone's really made that huge life decision, then I'm happy to support them so that it's successful for them, so they don't eat their way out of bariatric surgery, so they reduce complications. But I don't do hypnosis for weight loss, like just general. Now, before I go, I'm wrapping up here. I'm going to say that we all struggle with this, myself included. There are some days when this is easier for me and other days when it's harder. There's some days when I want to remove all the mirrors in the house, and other days when it's just okay. So please know you're not alone. But the longer I shift to this mindset, the easier it gets. The easier it is to feel happier at my size. The easier it is to accept my own body. And the happier I feel about that. All right, people, I'm going to wrap up for the week. Peace. If you like this episode, do me a favor and rate, review, and subscribe on whatever player you like. Or even better, tell a friend so that more and more people learn about hypnosis and how it can be helpful for them. If you want to know more about me, head over to drlizhypnosis.com. That's DRLIZ, hypnosis.com. You can see the downloads and see if there's one that's helpful for your life. Or you could also join the newsletter and get a couple of free files, as well as lots of good content. I've written a newsletter for well over 10 years. So I couldn't do that if people didn't like it. So it's a good newsletter. Go ahead and subscribe and join the rest of the world. All right, people, have a wonderful week.